Happy Wednesday, everyone. Josh's Severe Weather. We are tracking powerful Hurricane Erin, which continues to grow in size and may strengthen some more as it makes its closest approach to the North Carolina coast here tonight and tomorrow, a couple hundred miles offshore. That's not it, though. There are three tropical waves I'm keeping an eye on between the Caribbean islands and Africa, which have some uncertainty to where they're going to go, but need to be watched. Appreciate you joining me here this evening. We're going to get right to it here. If you have not yet become a subscriber, please like the video and subscribe so that you can get my latest daily updates and not miss any of those. Here's a look at the satellite image, and you can see the size of Hurricane Erin just continues to amaze me as a very large system. This is in the top 20 to 25th percentile of all hurricanes this far north. And the storm is finally beginning to reach its farthest west point. It's going to begin to head back out to sea here, as you can see on our satellite. Well-defined eye in the middle. There's actually a second eye wall surrounding it, which is keeping it from getting too powerful at this point. But you can see the storm is getting closer and closer to the outer banks of North Carolina and will eventually begin to impact Bermuda as well as it begins to make that turn to the north and west of Bermuda. Here's a look at the satellite view of the rest of the Western Atlantic. You can see really it's just Erin on the map. There's nothing else to really talk about. There is a boundary here that is stretching across portions of the Mid-South down into the southern central portion of the country. And this front is part of the reason this system is not heading in this direction, because the front's going to kick it out back in that direction over time. Elsewhere in the Gulf, things are very quiet. High pressure aloft is in control. We have northeasterly shear over the Caribbean. And our next system just off the map, we're going to talk about here a little bit later on in this video. And I will show you what those three waves we're going to be tracking look like at the time. Here is wave number one right now, dealing with some wind shear, but expected to continue in this direction. Wave number two is an invest that has a chance of still developing into a quick depression or storm. But by the time it moves into here, it will move into an area of stronger wind shear. And then wave number three, nobody's really talking about because it still hasn't left the coast of Africa, but generally speaking, heading in this direction. So we are going to continue to keep an eye on that. The next names on the list will be Fernand and Gabrielle. Here's a look at the current map showing that there are just medium chances for both of these systems to become tropical depressions or tropical storms. The first area has a low chance. So the second area could scoop up the next name first, but it has less of a future beyond the next couple of days. It'll be heading into an area of higher wind shear very quickly here. So it's got a limited chance of becoming a tropical depression or storm. Then this area, we continue to watch as it gets closer to the Leeward Islands here as we get into Friday and Friday night. After that, if you're in Bermuda, you're going to need to watch this as you may be dealing with your second straight system here in less than a week. And then we get to Hurricane Erin, which is very close to Category 3 strength at 110 miles per hour. The pressure, 943 millibars. That has dropped significantly since this time yesterday by almost 20 millibars. It is located at 31.2 degrees north and 73.6 degrees west, and beginning to pick up some forward speed now, moving north or just east of north at 14 miles per hour. As always, if you are on the beach, you're going to be impacted by this regardless with life-threatening surf and rip currents. But if you're not even in the North Carolina beaches, you will be impacted in some way by this system. Here's a look at the forecast track. You'll see it's expected to become a Category 3 hurricane between now and tomorrow morning, as it's still in an area that will certainly be favorable for some more intensification. Internally, it does have a struggle going on with those two different eye walls. But you can see the track is very well defined here as recurving off the coast, well north of Bermuda, which is under a tropical storm watch, and safely enough to the east of the Outer Banks to prevent it from getting hurricane conditions. And I'm going to measure it out and just show you what the closest approach is expected to be here. This is Hatteras, and this is the center of the track, about 205 miles. If the track ends up or the turn comes a little bit later on, it could be as close as 175 miles from the coast. But that is better than the forecast from yesterday, which was a little bit closer, now starting to bend away after that. We do have tropical storm warnings in effect, as well as storm surge warnings for portions of eastern North Carolina, basically from Cape Lookout up through Duck. and a tropical storm warning now all the way up to near the Maryland border. So that does include all the eastern shore of Virginia, Virginia Beach area. It includes Pamlico and Albemarle Sounds, the mouths of the rivers as well. And we do have a tropical storm watch in anticipation for this system bringing enough wind on its eastern side to produce some tropical storm conditions on Bermuda here later tonight into tomorrow and possibly into Friday as well. And you'll see below, here's the next area we're watching, and not very organized, but expected to head in a general direction of Bermuda as well. This track continues to delay some and shift a little bit farther to the east as we are going to see the front that is in place here over the U.S. continue to push eastward and keep anything from moving westward towards Florida or the rest of the southeastern United States. And again, another view here shows that after Erin, the water temperatures ahead of our next system are going to be warm enough to support a tropical storm, but it is going to take a little bit of time, and it may take until it moves well to the north of the Virgin Islands before that happens. But if you're in Bermuda, you need to be watching that. Invest 99L, that is a tropical disturbance that's being investigated for development, now has a 40% chance of developing. That chance hasn't gotten a lot higher today, but it is something that we'll continue to watch as that system moves west. And that system, I'll talk about it more in this video later on, may not have much of a future for now, but down the road might find itself in the Western Caribbean with a better chance of developing. All right, so let's talk about Erin for a little bit longer here. You can see this, the eye is beginning to wobble a bit to the right, finally. There's also a bit of a pocket of dry air that's in place between the central eye wall and here, and then a secondary eye wall out in here. There's a little bit of dry air in the way. So this system is unlikely to rapidly intensify at this point, but it is still under warm water. So it still has a possibility of becoming a little bit stronger. And here's the visible image. And you can see both eye walls very clearly here on satellite here, both of which are producing powerful winds over 100 miles per hour. So a big storm that continues to get bigger and bigger, and we're seeing the high clouds impacting the North Carolina coast and the surface coming up very quickly there as well. This kind of brings you back to memories at this point of Hurricane Sandy in 2012. Now, obviously, Sandy took a much different track. We're looking at almost the exact same location here with Erin heading in this direction. Sandy started that direction, but ended up coming back and hitting Delaware, New Jersey, and here at an angle that was very precarious to the coast, producing all that damage that we saw from Delaware all the way up into New England. So not the same track, but a very similar size and a very similar look to it at this time, which is something that a hurricane historian like me always finds interesting. We like to compare storms with each other. Now, it won't be the exact same, but it's very clear this system still has a little bit more room to grow at this point. Here's a look at the microwave image. It shows that there are two distinct eye walls here. Here's eye wall number one right around our central core. Eye wall number two in place here. And the winds with this will probably weaken. The winds with the inner eye wall will probably strengthen. At what speed is still to be determined. But typically we see this keep the storm from getting much stronger as there's just too many opposing forces. But that will be something that we have to watch. We did have a recon plane go into this a little while ago, earlier in the afternoon, that did confirm those two eye walls. There's another plane set to leave here at about 5 o'clock Eastern time, and that will get in here probably closer to 7 o'clock. But you can see the recon data from earlier now showing the storm no longer moving northwest, moving basically due north, and that pressure down to 943 millibars. So you're going to see on the wind field here, the hurricane force wind field continues to grow, but look how big the tropical storm force wind field has gotten at this point. And on this track, it will make its way towards Ocracoke and then Hatteras later on tonight as conditions will continue to head downhill. It's possible that we could see tropical storm force winds in Bermuda here later tomorrow as the system makes this turn and continues to grow in all four directions. The track hasn't changed much. You'll see that after it makes the turn, it'll safely pass south of New England and Atlantic Canada. The winds may actually make things worse where there are wildfires in Newfoundland, something to keep in mind for the folks up there. We don't want the strong winds, and I don't think we're going to get the worst of it, but we're not getting any rain either out of this, so that could actually make things worse when it comes to the wildfire situation there on Newfoundland. Over time, next week, we will see this getting close to Iceland or Western Europe. But as you can see, there's quite a bit of spread in the models once we get into the beginning of next week. The intensity forecast, this is where things are tricky. You will see that a lot of our models are showing steady state or even an increase in intensity over the next 24 hours, getting us into the afternoon tomorrow. Then beyond that, there generally shows a weakening trend. Now, how fast it weakens will depend on several things, but eventually this system will be a tropical storm by the weekend or a low-end hurricane at that point. It'll be growing still, but it will be weakening at that point as it reaches cooler water. The ship's model confirms that as well. It's actually going to be transitioning from a hurricane to a powerful extratropical cyclone or post-tropical cyclone here. Timeline on that probably could be as soon as Friday afternoon or Friday night, maybe early on Saturday. The reason why is that the moisture drops off substantially, the ocean water temperature drops substantially, and the wind shear climbs extremely substantially, all the way up to over 60 knots in just over 72 hours when the system's over here. Does that mean it won't be a powerful storm? No, it just means it's going to be losing that tropical characteristic as drier air gets into it. It reaches cooler waters, and at that point, it's just an ocean bomb is what we would call it, and a fish storm, certainly. Here's a look at the size of the storm and how it's going to track and grow, and you can see it's still growing. This gets us to tomorrow morning and then growing further here tomorrow night. And this is what's prompting the tropical storm watch for Bermuda. And we will see the size doesn't stop growing. Erin just continues to grow and grow and grow. Now it'll be weaker over the weekend as the pressure comes up, but then could actually merge with another front moving in from the west here on Monday. And this could create some problems when we get into early next week across Western Europe. Right now, a little bit too early to get specific on that, but you can see a powerful system is very quickly going to be heading in that direction. We are going to have significant wave heights here as well. We already have waves offshore that are over 35 feet. As I pull this northward here, you're going to see waves increasing beyond 10 feet to closer to 20 feet just off of Hatteras here tonight. And then tomorrow we could see wave heights even go higher, up to 22 feet here to the south and east of Hatteras, as much as 55 feet as our storm continues to tear up the western Atlantic Ocean. And farther north, we're going to see significant wave heights as well, getting up to coastal Delaware, New Jersey, and in particular, eastern Long Island and southern New England. We could have wave heights over 10 to maybe 12 feet. So there's going to be coastal flooding for sure, hazardous surf, and just a very nasty situation. And I do think there will be some form of property damage at some of the coastal locations well north of where the system goes. That does include you in New England, by the way. So if you've got a house that's maybe wasn't properly built or is in a flood zone, it very well could be impacted by this system. Will it be at the level of what we saw with Sandy? I highly doubt it, but will still be some substantial wave action here over the next few days. And then the waves stay very high here, 15 feet around Atlantic City and Margate here Thursday evening, and 11 feet around Montauk, 14 feet just to the south of Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket. And then as we move this along into Friday, we finally start to see those levels come down a little bit, but it's really not all that safe to get out and do anything at the beaches until we get to maybe Sunday if we're lucky. So things are going to be volatile out there. It's going to be several days of damaging surf, especially at high tide, and we need to keep that in mind. Rainfall is not going to be a problem, though. From Erin, we will have locally heavy rain elsewhere from our stalled boundary in the southern and central Appalachians and maybe portions of the Northeast, but that will not be a concern from Erin. Here's a look at the structure of the storm as well, showing you when the strongest winds are expected to arrive in Hatteras. And we're looking at this time step being right around 1 or 2 in the morning on Thursday, so overnight tonight. Winds will pick up early in the day tomorrow, and then we'll start to see winds coming down slightly here later in the day. So the worst conditions as far as wind goes and rain goes will be during the morning hours tomorrow on Hatteras and on the Outer Banks. Things will improve after that, but we're going to still have a lot of coastal flooding as well. Here's a look at the wind speeds expected from the NAM model here. You can see this afternoon, wind gusts potentially 30 to 40 miles per hour here. From Hatteras all the way on down to near Jacksonville and the coastal areas, New Bern, those areas. So it's already getting windy out there now. We also have windy conditions along our boundary here near New England, but that is not associated with Erin at this point. You will see how the winds are going to come up significantly, though, over the next few hours tonight, over 40 miles per hour by about 9 or 10 o'clock on Hatteras, 30 to 40 miles per hour on Ocracoke, all the way up to Kitty Hawk as well. And then looks like our strongest wind speeds are going to come after midnight tonight, 58 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts over the Outer Banks during the early morning hours tomorrow. 30 to 40 mile per hour wind speeds around Elizabeth City and Virginia Beach. 30 mile per hour wind speeds over eastern portions of Maryland, eastern shore of Virginia, and eventually over southern New England as well. First with the front, then with everything coming up with Erin. So all in all, between now and Thursday night, we are likely to see hurricane force wind gusts. Let me change my color here. We'll go pink. Hurricane force wind gusts are going to be in this area, so they will stay offshore. But tropical storm wind gusts are going to be in this area here and may actually expand up the Jersey Shore and across portions of eastern Long Island and maybe even impacting the islands south of Cape Cod. So in here, we're looking at 40 to maybe 70 mile per hour wind gusts. I would say not 70 farther north, but certainly 40 is possible. Down here, we're looking at 70 to 100. And in the storm, we're going to see between 100 and 150 mile per hour wind and wind gusts. So very powerful system here. One we certainly don't want to mess with. Bermuda, your winds are starting to come up here tomorrow morning. Gusts could get up to 40 miles per hour. By the afternoon, evening, 50 to 60 miles per hour looks possible. And you'll see that's as the storm is moving from west to east here north. So these winds will be out of the west. They won't be out of the typical south and southeast that we often will see. They'll be out of the west. So keep that in mind here as waves batter the island from west to east. All right, so that's all I've got on Erin for now. Real quick, we're going to talk about the next few potential systems. This is Erin over here. These are non-tropical features here. And then we have our next couple of waves here. And a chance for a tropical depression or greater is climbing with this next feature. It is coming down, though, with this feature. And then what comes off of Senegal needs to be tracked as well, but doesn't look like it has much of a future. By the time we get to the weekend, after Erin pulls away, really the only system I think we're going to be needing to be too concerned with is the area that's coming through the Caribbean islands. And that looks like it's heading towards Bermuda, or very close to Bermuda. Now, we could see a non-tropical low form near the North Carolina coast here Sunday or Monday of next week. That eventually could acquire some tropical characteristics, but it's awfully hard that far out to try to figure that out. At this point, we may just see additional low pressure forming, maybe some more rain for the Outer Banks, maybe some more wind. But it looks like what's coming off of Africa doesn't stand much of a chance to really do a whole lot from the islands on eastward or southward. Now, as we get later on into next week, we have to keep an eye on the Western Caribbean because of our wave that has moved past the Cabo Verdes may have a shot eventually at trying to reorganize. So the uncertainty continues to grow, but the number of systems to watch does not. So again, we're keeping track of this area, which right now is being impacted by southwesterly wind shear from this upper level low up in here. But as this upper low continues to move away after Erin, this area here has a possibility of developing when it gets to near the islands here by Saturday morning. This area may be at its best right now. The question mark isn't, could it be a depression, is does it have that closed circulation? If it does, it's in here and it's expected to head farther south and lose some latitude here. Eventually, it makes its way over towards Trinidad and Tobago towards the Tuesday of next week. But in this area, the wind shear is expected to grow substantially. And then finally, we've got a massive area of thunderstorms that looks awfully concerning over portions of Senegal and southern Mauritania. That is expected to gain latitude. And as a result, whether or not it forms in here, I don't think we need to be too concerned with, because it's unlikely to be more of a nuisance for anybody other than the Cabo Verdes and for coastal Africa. They don't need the rain. It's been a very active couple of months or a couple of weeks, but unfortunately, that's what we're looking at here. So we're going to sum it up here with some ensemble models. Here is the next potential feature. You can see what's down here. The European loses completely, at least the AI does. But maybe it tries to make a comeback somewhere in here once we get to about Labor Day weekend. So backing it up here, you're going to see likely a tropical storm towards the Bermuda area. You can kind of see where the window of where this could be here is as we get on into next Monday and Sunday night, Monday into Monday night. But there are a few areas here, a few low pressure areas coming from our wave that comes up in here. And over time, that is starting to head more towards areas we need to be more concerned with. Now, whether or not it develops or holds on is a completely other question. But at this point, I wouldn't get super worried about it, but I would definitely keep an eye on it. The next wave, nothing happens from it. It comes over the Cabo Verdes and dies. Beyond that, we see another wave set to come off here as we get into the latter part of next week. But again, that one is likely to be gaining latitude and no issue for land. Here's a look at that invest south and west of the Cabo Verdes. And it looks impressive. There's a lot of thunderstorm activity, but it just doesn't get the ability to get named into a depression or storm because it does not have the closed off circulation. But it's bigger than what Erin was when it came off last week. That's just something to keep in mind. And you can see the models are losing latitude with it, so we don't have to be super concerned with it. It is something, though, we're going to have to watch in about 5 days as it approaches Trinidad and Tobago or possibly the Grenadines and St. Vincent. So something to keep an eye on there. But again, I don't think it's going to develop into much, or if it does, it would only last a day. And then we have to watch it down the road for a possible zombie effect. And what I mean by that is it would die, and then what's left of it may try to make a comeback and come back to life more than 10 days from now. You can see the intensity forecast overall, except for one model here that I don't really trust. It is unlikely to be a tropical storm in the next 5 days. Here's a look at the ship's model. This is pretty bizarre, but it says it could strengthen into a tropical storm and then end up in South America. I don't know, but I think the main things to keep in mind here is that the atmosphere gets a lot drier and the amount of wind shear is going to be climbing substantially here in the next couple of days. So I just don't think it stands a chance. Over time, though, we're going to have to keep an eye on it. Here's a look at the GFS ensembles real quick. And you can see here's the system we're watching that could impact Bermuda here next Monday. So it's only about 5-6 days away. Bermuda's getting something here tomorrow, and then they may have something a few days later, although I don't think it's going to be as strong. The next wave, it loses and then tries to bring back to life somewhere out in here when we get to about Labor Day and beyond. And there's different solutions. I mean, there's going into Central America, there's going to Mexico, and then there's a possibility that something tries to come up closer to the southeastern coast, at least the Gulf Coast. There's some areas of low pressure that we're going to have to watch as well, forming along a boundary here. But at this point, it would have to be something that spins up fairly quickly. European model ensembles. I showed you the AI. Again, it shows our track near Bermuda here. It shows this wave dying, the next one not surviving. So again, we're just going to have to watch it at this point. And here's the HWRF, which shows you that our system is still struggling and struggling and struggling. The one behind it might be something to watch, but again, not looking super impressive. And so we just have 2 waves to watch at this point. Now, the models could be completely wrong, and that's wouldn't be the first time. So we just want to watch them until they're completely dead at this point. I did want to show you the halves here real quick. Let's see if I can find it. Maybe it's the halves B. Not Erin. Okay. That's all right. It's gone, but earlier on showed our next system developing pretty quickly here north of the islands. Now, the European doesn't think that happens. You can see it's got a lot of moisture out here, but just a very hostile environment for much to last. And so at this point, we just keep an eye on things. You can see a big shot of cool air coming down into the southern and eastern United States. And when that happens, we're likely to get a front that we'll have to watch when it gets over warmer water, but would at least for the next couple of weeks push things offshore. So that's all I have here today. I'm going to close us out with a word from the good book, from the Bible. I'm a Christian man, and first and foremost, I've been called to share my faith with others. Even though God is using me through Jesus as a meteorologist, I'm also called to help others. That's why I do what I do here. Matthew 11:28 says, "Come to me, all you who labor and all are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." And we're all working harder and harder than ever. I think in 2020, we all realized just how important we are. Excuse me. And We can't do it ourselves. We have to go to God in prayer. Excuse me 1 second here. Much better. Okay. Lord, help me. We all work our butts off, but our time here on earth it's finite. And your eternity, I hope it matters where you spend eternity. The good thing is that by accepting Jesus as your savior, by following God, and by understanding the miracles that have been provided to us through Jesus Christ, that God takes all of that hard work off of us and gives us the peace of mind and the mercy that waits for us in heaven. And that's the good news I wanted to share with you all today. I apologize for my voice given out here at the end, but it is time to go clearly. But I'll be back tomorrow, and I hope everybody stays safe, and I'm praying for the safety of those on the coast here. I'll see you all soon. God bless you.